Alright, what is up everybody? So here with Dagath, the new Warframe. Just gonna apologize off the bat. I am a little under the weather, so might cough a little bit or have some sniffles. But let's get into it. So I think the new frame is really cool. The new game mode is really fun. It's like an exterminate mission, but it's got like a little bit of it's like a super nightmare exterminate mission basically. Um, Her farm is honestly not that bad. The biggest thing is just waiting for your dojo to build her parts. I did just buy her collection, and then I'm waiting for my dojo to finish the room so I can make another copy of her for Helminth. But yeah, not too bad to farm. Now her abilities are were a little strange at first. So actually, let me get rid of my companion so they're not shooting stuff while I'm trying to explain. All right. So, her abilities are interesting. Her kit is quite interesting. If I had to compare her to another frame, I think she's almost like Nidus, maybe. And not really in like execution, but just in terms of how much her abilities synergize with each other. Actually, maybe Gauss is a better choice. So her abilities have tons of synergy. Um, so her one, you throw out these scythes. First of all, her passive is insane. It's like that is just crazy. That's basically like super energize. Combine this with equilibrium, and she pretty much has infinite energy. So her one is like relatively easy to understand, right? So you make these scythes, they spin around you, they'll hit enemies around you, then they'll shoot out and hit more enemies. They slow, they do some damage, they apply viral. Pretty solid. They do like okay damage, nothing too crazy. So her 2 is where most of her mechanics come from. So this is Doom. So you can affect the range of this ability, but it's kind of like Petrify on Atlas, where it's a cone-shaped AoE, and you can increase the maximum distance you can hit targets to quite a bit, actually. So I have 175% range on this, and here I can show the base stats, but it's a pretty, like 15 base range is respectable, but you can't change that angle. So that is mitigated because you can spread the Doom effect with her 1. Her 3 is basically a crit buff, and then if you die, you kind of get like a extra chance on life. It's pretty nice. You're definitely getting it's a crit damage increase. It's pretty solid, and it's got that like cheat death mechanic. So one thing to note is so you can see that there's that time invulnerable. So that will trigger when you die. And then the ability's cooldown, which you can see is 25 seconds, is not affected by mods and starts after the invulnerability period ends, not when it begins. So you cannot do like permanent invulnerability shenanigans. Like this is not Defy 2.0. And then her 4 seems very strong. And once again, we're seeing some Doom synergy here. So her whole kit has synergy with Doom. So you summon these Kaiths to shoot, go forward. They inflict viral. They strip defenses, which is really good. Now it seems like it's a pretty low amount. 35% base seems pretty low. However, um, these are kind of interesting in that as they gallop, it seems like the damage from these is like coming from their hooves almost, like that part of the animation. So you can actually hit enemies multiple times with this ability. So you don't need a ton of strength to get this thing to 100% strip. You can also do this like shotgun thing where if you hit enemies right in front of you. So if you look at this animation, you'll see right at the beginning, they rein up, right? And they kick. Those kicks are separate attacks. So if you use this ability on an enemy directly in front of you, they just get completely obliterated. Um, so now, one thing that's really important with this frame is actually the um, animations for her different abilities. So, all right, so Word Scythe, so these get shot out, right? Okay, so these guys are slowed. Now, Doom is kind of hard to see, all right? So now you see those scythes that came up above the targets? That's not Doom, okay? So that is this part of the ability. So if we look at Doom, it says a portion of the damage Dagath deals is revisited upon them by a Word Scythe. They also suffer viral damage because Word Scythes do viral, right? So how the hell does this ability work? And this is what I was testing last night in the Simulacrum. So let me just apply this again. So Doom does a little bit of direct damage, which is what summons that Word Scythe. Okay, so you see this like pinkish. I mean, it's going to depend on your energy color, but you see this like these like spikes coming out of the target. That is Doom. That is the Doom effect. Okay, and so you can see these enemies don't have Doom. If I use my Word Scythes, it gets spread. So basically, how and if you notice, it got spread before those enemies got hit by the Word Scythes. So basically, if you have a doomed target and you hit them with Word Scythes, it'll spread the doom, to a whole bunch of enemies around them. So I do think range is pretty important on her. Um, so because you basically have to have doom on targets to use any of her kit. She's almost like Grendel, I guess, right? Like you have to have enemies in your gut to use Grendel's abilities. Same thing with her. You basically have to have targets doomed for your other abilities to work. Okay, now, whoops. Okay, so more on Doom. So how does this ability work in terms of the damage redirection? So I'm just going to hit this target right here. Okay, so you can see that those targets are not taking damage. Initially, I thought that this was going to be like Kalervo's 3, where if you hit one doomed target, it distributed part of that damage to the other doomed targets. That is not how it works. This is more like Garuda's 4. It's more like Seeking Talons, where okay, so any damage you do to the target. So let's say if you do any damage, a Word Scythe will show up above them. Okay? And now they have a slash proc, so they're going to keep taking damage. And it seems like the Scythe will like kind of accumulate damage for a second or two. See how it kind of took my initial hit and a couple slash procs and then it came down. So based off of my testing last night, how this is working is it is affected by armor and it's redistributing your damage after reductions. So let's say, so like this build, I have about 60% damage redirection from Doom based on my strength. So if I hit an enemy for 10, that means they'll take 60 damage. But then that 60 damage also gets reduced or sorry. Yeah, so it doesn't, so the armor is not double, sorry, I should explain that better. Armor is not double dipping, but it is based off of the reduced damage. Okay, so if you're hitting for like 1,000, the enemy has enough armor that it gets reduced to 10, and you have 60% damage redirection on Doom, they will take 6 from Doom. Now, where this gets really crazy and where there is double dipping is if the enemy is affected by viral. Okay, so viral increases your damage against their health by 325% MX stacks. So 4.25. So when you hit an enemy, and let's say that they have armor, so you hit an enemy, it gets reduced by their armor. Then that damage that is reduced by the armor gets amplified by your viral, right? Because that's what's actually affecting their health. Now, if they have Doom on them, they'll get that proc of Doom damage. However, the Doom damage is also amplified by Viral. So your Doom damage redirection is double dipping with Viral because your initial hit gets increased, but then the Doom actually increases again. So your Doom hits can actually be higher than the initial damage hitting the target. Now, Slash is obviously because Viral loves or Slash loves Viral, so like this frame is basically perfect for anything that's like Viral Slash. She can apply a ton of Viral just on her own, like that. All these targets have Viral on them now, right? So anything that does Slash, like this weapon has 100. Of course, it's not going to proc. This weapon has 100 munitions, so anything with Viral is going to be awesome, or anything that likes Viral is going to really like Doom. Now, there's also, I already mentioned her 3. You can basically just treat it like a crit damage buff, right? The damage is increased against Doom targets. So let me group these things up a little bit just to like show. Okay, come on, let me out, guys. Oh yeah, I'm not hitting that guy. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, the auto melee going a little crazy. Now her 4. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna hit this guy. Okay. Now, well, I'm not sure how that hit that target as well. Right? Okay, so you see how as soon as my word scythes hit that target, boom, Doom got spread to everybody. And then you can hit your 4, and they're gonna take a bunch of damage. So Doom, 4, and they're pretty much gonna die. I'm actually not sure why her 4 usually does more damage. I was actually this frame's mechanics are a little interesting. So yeah, Doom, word scythes for some Viral, and then blast them. So she can do a lot of damage. Like this frame can really do some damage. So we've kind of gone over her abilities. So what are some of her pros? So her pros are really easy Viral application. She kind of has 2 damage buffs. She has her crit damage buff, and then she also has her damage redirection on Doom. It's not like a traditional damage buff, and I'm sure that a lot of enemies aren't going to be affected by Doom. Like Doom probably won't work on like Eidolons or Prophet Taker, or who knows, it might not even work against liches and stuff. So Doom, I think it's going to be really awesome for like normal missions. She's not really like a traditional weapon buffing frame. Like maybe you could abuse her crit damage buff and go like, put Roar on her or Eclipse and try to do like a weapon buff build. But I think like how she is quote unquote meant to be played is as like basically around her 2 and her 4. So, you saw before that her 4 strips enemies or strips armor or strips defenses rather, so armor and shields. However, it doesn't do anything if the targets don't have Doom. See, they didn't have Doom, so let me Doom just this guy. Okay, now that applies Doom to everything, and now you can use her 4, right? And it'll do like pretty respectable damage. So like I said, her whole kit revolves around Doom. So I think some of the, as I was saying, the pros of her kit, she has some damage, like augmentation, like some damage buffing capabilities, easy viral application, very strong nukes for a warframe. However, and this goes into her cons, her 4 it has a very limited area. So it basically doesn't scale with range like at all. So you're going to shoot those things in a line, and how far they go is actually determined by your duration, not your range. So she's one of those frames that's like, how her abilities scale is a little weird. Um, because you don't really care that much about duration for her other abilities. So so my 3 is actually active right now. And the way her 3 works is it just stays active until you die. And then you get the invulnerability buff. And then once that times out, it goes on cooldown. So you actually don't need duration at all for her 3, which is pretty awesome. And then her two lasts like a pretty long time anyways. And this is Warframe. Like if enemies have her 2 on them, it means we're going to kill them, you know? So like it doesn't need to last a long time. Like it's like we don't need Doom to last forever because if we're dooming targets, it's because we intend on killing them, you know? So yeah. So she doesn't really need duration, but then her 4 awkwardly like scales off of duration. She wants range because you really want to be able to apply Doom to more targets. So that means you want Doom to have a longer range. You want the spread range on your Doom from word scythes is increased. So from what I could tell, so let's say you Doom this target, right? You see how that word scythe from Doom hits them? That will not trigger Doom spreading. Doom will only spread if you hit them with her 1. Okay? So I don't think you can really use a helmet on this frame. If you do, you basically have to either like give up her 4 or her 3, I think. So you basically have to like give up her nuke playstyle, which I think that's kind of like the main reason to play this frame, or you give up her 3 to like enhance her nuking capabilities. So I could see something like putting ensnare over her 3, or turbulence, or pull, or anything that groups enemies up. Group them up, use Doom, use her 4. So, because one of the big cons, like I was saying, is look, these things don't have a big area that they hit, right? So that's I mean, this is Warframe, right? We're just constantly killing enemies in a huge area. Imagine Dagath in the circuit and like this, I mean, we've all played the circuit, right? This whole area would be full of enemies. You could cast this, even though it does a ton of damage, it's still not really going to clear that many enemies out. So I think her 4 is really cool and it has a lot of potential, but it's almost more, it has a pretty limited area. Um, Now, like I said before, you see how they like kicked up in the air when you first used it? You can use that to like shotgun enemies down and like do like a ton more damage. So let's see, I'll doom this guy. Maybe I'll put some viral on him. So like around there, yeah. So you see how you just like instantly exploded because the horses all hit him. It has like a pretty small range though, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, I would say like the big one of the big downsides of her kit is the limited range on her 4. If the more range you had gave you more horses, that would be pretty sick. And it like increased the rate, like the arc in front of you that you could shoot horses out. That would be pretty cool, but it doesn't. And I don't know if that's just because like they don't, they can't animate it more, but you really can't get more range out of this ability. Um, I think the other problem, so this leads into like her second problem is she really, and it's not necessarily a problem, but um, when you're making a build for her, you're really going to want to have something that groups enemies up, right? So you can either use a helmet ability, like I was saying, like ensnare, whatever. You can also use Magus Anomaly to group enemies up. Let me out. So you can use Magus Anomaly. You can use like, oopsies. Ah, you can use like the Feryx, right? The Feryx will pull enemies in. Um, the Proboscis Cernos. So like here, group enemies up, hit them with your 4, dead. Um, so you really want something that can group enemies up. That's it's pretty good. So, um, the other thing, so what I was messing around with, and her biggest weakness, I think, is survivability. Um, so, unfortunately, Dagath has basically 0 CC and basically 0 defensive abilities. She doesn't have damage reduction. She doesn't have any kind of crowd control. The only CC she kind of has is her word scythes from her one will slow targets, but it's just not that great. Like, who cares? You know, it doesn't last very long. It's not that much. Um, so and her best form of CC is just making things dead, but she struggles with enemies hitting her in a large area. I will also say on the topic of her four, this thing needs some fixes in terms of like how it hits targets like high up. Like let's say like there is a target down there I wanted to hit. Like that it just won't hit anything under there. Like it's her four is really really bad at hitting things that are like displaced on the Z axis at all. Um, so yeah, that was pretty annoying. Like I would be like I was having when I was running missions with her last night, I was having these situations where like I would be like kind of on stairs or whatever and like use this and then like, it would just be really weird. It was really inconsistent in how it hit enemies. So, okay, so yeah. Thanks Nautilus. Wow, what a bro. So, I was messing around with using the Nautilus with her. So the Nautilus groups enemies up, and then that lets use her combo. And I mean like okay, like straight up one, this frame is fun as hell to play, insanely fun. Two, her like combo. One, thank you DE so much for making a frame like this that actually has fast animations from the get go. Like this is not Garuda 2.0. I don't think you need natural talent on this frame. Thank God. Maybe for her four, but you're immune during her four. So actually, that I'll take that. That's kind of like her one defensive ability is her four. It makes you immune. So you almost don't even want to shorten her four animation. So why the Nautilus? So one, the Nautilus has that cool. So first of all, use the Verglass. This weapon is nuts. I'm using Cold and Corrosive because she applies Viral. So on the Nautilus, there's this Cordon ability, which is that AoE pull-in. You can also get, so now Sentinels don't just die, right? So primed regen is nuts. So the base regen time for Sentinels is a minute. The Panzervopophyla is 30 seconds with their mod. But Sentinels with primed regen, it's 25 seconds base. Like, what? And then when it comes back, it has 10 seconds of invulnerability. I actually think Sentinels are nuts right now compared to your companions for survivability. So if you want it to attack, you got to put assault mode on. There are some other cool like things that Sentinels have. So shield charger, so increases your shields and gives you shield regen. Guardian is it boosts your shields. So anything that because of shield gating, right? Anything that can give you more shields is going to be really nice. This, I don't. That's not like a real thing. You don't need primed animal instinct anymore. You can put it on if you want. But then that gets us into like the bond skills. So these are like the new companion mods, right? So I am trying this out on the Nautilus. Um, I'm not like it's kind of hard to tell when it's procking. Um, so the cool thing is this is from like and I it was really hard to test this out 100%. But from what I was testing in the simulacrum last night was this seems to proc off of your kills in addition to your Sentinel's kills. So you can constantly be reducing the cooldown on your Cordon, shield charger guard. I wish there were like some kind of way of identifying what mods were counted as a companion ability. Like, I don't know if they want to just like add a label to these that say like companion ability or something like that. Um, like adds companion ability Corden or something. I don't know, whatever. Because like, I mean, I'm assuming that these three are all companion abilities, but it's kind of hard to tell. I really liked Covert Bond because like, it just gives your companion perma stealth basically. And I like killing things with my Parazon anyways because you get a whole ton of energy back. And that brings me to one of the other potential issues with Dagath is, man, this frame uses a lot of energy because you are just constantly spamming abilities. Now, I will say because of her passive, so if you combine her passive with Equilibrium, you're going to get a ton of energy back. So this is the build I've been using on her. Um, so unfortunately, she's one of those frames that kind of wants every stat because all of her abilities need every stat in some way. Um, so it's, pretty basic like shield gating plus equilibrium plus range and then strength. I was going with Umbral Intensify and Augur Secrets. You could maybe justify, yeah, if you want to be a little tankier, you could put like Umbral Vitality here. I think in the X list, you're probably going to want to use, the normal either Prime Sure-Footed or Preparation. I haven't quite formatted her that much yet. So those are like the two default Exilus mods. She doesn't really synergize with any of the Archon mods. Um, and then yeah, so for her for her survivability, rolling guard, I honestly would like almost consider putting adaptation on this frame just because that really was the biggest issue by far was just surviving. Her survivability was not amazing. Um, it definitely could use some help. So that's why I left this final arcane slot open. So I think she really likes strength, right? Because like she's doing damage with her abilities. Her abilities scale really well off of strength. So you're getting more of this damage redirection, more crit, more defense stripping, more slow, more damage. It's like she really likes strength. Molt augmented is kind of a no-brainer. Now this slot I left empty because I think this is kind of up to personal preference. So depending on what companion you use, and your companion mods, you could need energy, in which case you would go with energize, or you might need survivability, in which case I would go with Aegis. So based off of how you're feeling in missions, if you feel like you're running out of energy a lot, use energize. If you feel like you're dying a lot, try out Arcane Aegis. Um, so I think like for your companion actually has kind of more builds and whatnot you can do now. So I would say some interesting companion. I don't have all the companion mods. I tried to get all the ones that I actually thought would be useful. Um, Duplex Bond was a little like not so good because the clones like don't really do that much. They can only use auto attacks. They can only just attack. They can't use abilities. They have to kill things to get energy orbs to drop, which like the Verglass is an awesome weapon, don't get me wrong. But it's not like it's not going to kill like heavy gunners, right? Now you could try this out. I think that this has like some potential. I think this is actually pretty sick because if you're running Equilibrium, getting 60 more health from health orbs, that's a lot of extra energy. So this makes health orbs even better. This makes Equilibrium even better. And it reduces your companion's recovery time by 3 seconds every time you pick up a health orb. And with Prime Regen, their respawn time is only 25 seconds, so it's not even that long to begin with. Um, Reinforced Bond, you basically have to run calculated redirection to get so the simulacrum is bugged. It's not showing the right values for the stats, but if you run calculated, you basically have to run calculated redirection with reinforced bond for it to actually work. Which isn't like terrible, it's like okay. Um, Tenacious Bond is also like okay. Problem is with Sentinels, like you don't use weapons with crit chance, right? Most of the good Sentinel weapons are purely status. So yeah, so those were the ones I had so far for Sentinels. There's other ones that you can only use on like beasts. Um, so yeah, I'm trying this one out. This one's pretty cool. I like this one a lot. I might try Duplex Bond out a little more, but I think it has some limitations. I'm unfortunately I didn't have so you get the bond mods from the open world, like all the pet vendors. So like the business on Fortuna, Sun on Deimos, and Master Tisonai on Cetus. So you want to get, and they just use like the normal standing for those open worlds. I didn't have any standing in those open worlds, so I'm kind of farming those mods up as we go. But I almost have them all. So so yeah, I think if you can get comfortable with um, Dagath's survivability. You can also use Magus Anomaly. That's another thing I forgot to mention. So let me just go over here. So Nautilus, you're cordoning too much, man. So yeah, so you can also use uh, Magus Anomaly, the Proboscis Cernos groups enemies up pretty well, and it applies status effects. So yeah, um, there's definitely some options. So yeah, I think she can do a lot of damage. I think she's super, 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 super fun. Um, I think it's really hard to helminth anything into her kit. It's like a very, very cohesive, synergistic kit, which I personally like. I think she's awesome. I'm probably going to be playing her a lot. I am a little. Obviously, this is the simulacrum, right? Last night I was playing her a lot in Steel Path, and man, it was a little touch and go at times. Like it was very easy to just die on this frame because you don't really have anything to like protect you that much. So I would actually really suggest like if you're gonna use her. So a couple more things. So one, like I've mentioned in the past, you could get a little more mileage out of shield gating by using the auger mods on your secondary to get more energy back on your abilities, or sorry, more shields from your abilities. The other thing is anything with like a battery is really nice on her. And this goes for a lot of frames that use abilities a lot because battery weapons, um, they'll reload naturally over time while you're casting your abilities. You don't have to also do a reload animation. So, things like that are kit guns, the Shedu, the Bosmu, the Bubonico, stuff like that is really nice. And those can all like, you know, do pretty well with her. I also think like the Batacore is pretty fun. I mentioned this with Mag, but because like you kind of don't need to reload with the Batacore as long as you're continually hitting those secondary shots or like the charged up laser blasts with the Nightwave mod. So anything that'll kind of like naturally reload over time is really nice on frames that use abilities a lot. Um, and then finally for my focus school, so this comes down to your build, right? So if you run Prime Surefooted, you don't need to run Unairu. If you want to run Preparation, you need to run Unairu for the Prime Surefooted. Um, she doesn't really see Unairu isn't like a great fit for her, I don't think, because you're basically just getting Prime Surefooted out of it. Um, because she has armor strip and shield strip in her kit. So I think that probably like Matter Eye is going to be pretty nice for her. So Zenuric, if you're like really struggling with energy, and then Matter Eye to buff her abilities, right? Because Matter Eye has the thing where, oh my gosh, when you do a chain sling, you get cast speed. So like her abilities are casting super fast now. You also get more strength for like a pretty long time. So that made her 4 way faster to cast. Um, Yeah, dude, Nautilus is such a bro. Anyways, so I'm gonna be playing her a lot. I think she's awesome. Survivability is her biggest issue, and limited range. So hopefully you all have fun with Dagath as well. I think if you're gonna helmet her, you can kind of go one of two ways. You can lean into the AoE nuke and get rid of her 3, or you can forego her nuking potential and treat her like a weapon buff frame and get rid of her 4, or potentially her 1. Unfortunately, her 2 is a lot worse if you don't have her 1. So I think you kind of have, if you want to put a helmet on her, you kind of have to pick between weapon damage and AoE nukes. Or you could just run her base kit and, try and solve her issues other ways. So that's all on Dagath. I think she's awesome. I think D knocked it out of the park. Visually, I think she's incredible looking. I think she's like such a cool looking frame. Really awesome. I'm looking forward to all the other stuff in the update. Hydroid is amazing. Hydroid rework is incredible. So I think our boy Hydroid is back. So I'll be making a video soon about him as well. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and hope you all have a good day. See ya.